Well, I think we can go ahead and we'll get started with some introductions and then kind of roll into the content as people are kind of still filing in here. So my name is John Nash. I am a Veeam Data Cloud solution engineer specialized in Microsoft 365 and soon to be Entra ID.
And I'm Gene Torres, also a Veeam Data Cloud for Microsoft 365 solution engineer, soon to also be on Entra ID. I've been with Veeam for about 8 months now. John, you've got me beat big time.
Yeah, my 7-year anniversary was in December. So it's been a fun journey. I started out in support. Always touched Microsoft 365 from the very beginning. We used to support GoDaddy subscriptions back in version 1.5, but quickly moved away from those, unfortunately for a lot of those types of customers. Well, let's go ahead. We'll get started. So today we want to give you kind of this technical overview, a walkthrough of Veeam Data Cloud for Microsoft 365's capabilities and some of the features that we're kind of implementing and looking forward to as the year goes on. But before we get into that, we kind of want to start with why protect Microsoft 365 data at all. Gene, can you tell us a little bit more?
Yeah, so we meet with several customers on a daily basis, and if you figure over the last 8 months I've been here, it's been very busy. It's pretty resounding that the old thought of, hey, I'm putting everything into the cloud, it must be backed up and protected for me, right? That kind of mentality is kind of gone to the wayside, and everyone's really understanding now that there's a shared responsibility model that Microsoft has published with their cloud and the cloud services that basically states that we'll take care of all the infrastructure, the redundancy, the resilience. However, your data itself is your responsibility. You need to make sure it's backed up and recoverable. So that's one of the primary reasons why customers come to us to talk about the Veeam Data Cloud for Microsoft 365. And of course, there's always accidental deletion of data. Doesn't always have to be malicious, but there are daily reasons why you need to restore your data or back your data up and restore it. Secondarily, there's compliance requirements, regulatory compliance, and resilience gaps that our customers are recognizing within their environment. And one of the latest things we've started hearing lately is that cyber insurance companies are also starting to require that this Microsoft 365 data is recoverable, especially if your business relies on it. And then tertiary reasons, of course, very important is internal and external security threats. If you're not backing your data up, it could be easily deleted or encrypted, corrupt, ransomed. So we need to have a way to protect that data, make it immutable, so none of that backup data can be changed, and make it recoverable. And there's still a lot of hybrid deployments and migrations going on as customers are moving from on-premises services like Exchange and SharePoint into Microsoft 365. So they're looking for a way to protect that data as it lands in the cloud and make sure that it's recoverable to reduce the risk as part of that migration. And then another reason why, which I kind of scratch my head about sometimes, but it's very true, is a lot of teams are spun up for projects and quickly spun down as soon as projects complete. So if you're not backing that data up and someone needs to refer to it, I just thought it was really interesting. It was thrown into that report that we have listed at the bottom of the slide here.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about where maybe Veeam kind of fits into that cloud migration, that environmental structure and consumption. So when we look at Veeam's vision for Veeam Data Cloud, obviously today we're talking about Microsoft 365. You heard Gene and I talk a little bit about how in the near future we're going to be offering Entra ID into the platform. But today you can also take a look at our offerings around Veeam Vault, Microsoft Azure protection, and also in the near future you're going to see things like Salesforce and Kasten. Really, we want to kind of modularize the entire Veeam product suite into Veeam Data Cloud and make that easily consumable, very intuitive, simple, easy to click on and do things, but also have that single pane of glass that really offers that way out of kind of managing multiple products across different consoles and just having that one easy console to get all of that data. But we've been talking a lot about AI lately. And not to put you on the spot, Gene, because we didn't really talk about this, but are there things on the horizon with AI that we might be able to talk to about?
Yeah, we can definitely hint about some of that stuff, and it's going to be around better identifying your backup strategy, helping you quickly protect your data, identify gaps in your resilience strategy, as well as make recommendations on what needs to be backed up, especially if it's data that's constantly active or accessed. But yeah, I can't give away too much. It is roadmap stuff, so apologies for being pretty vague here. But yeah, there is an error on this slide which didn't appear when we were building it. The Entra ID is kind of grayed out, if you will, or the transparency's changed. Somehow it got inverted, but yeah, this slide was only supposed to highlight Microsoft 365 because we are focusing on that today.
There we go.
There it
Just
is.
need to animate that one out there. But yeah, really the idea for Veeam Data Cloud is to really give that confidence in the world of complexity today with all of the different systems, all the different protections that you're seeing come out, being able to have that secure platform, make sure everything is in line with where it needs to be, but also not needing a college degree to figure out how to architect all of these policies and things. We try to make it not only easy to consume, easy to get through, but we offer you enough resources to put these things together so that you can set these things up in half an hour, maybe an hour at most, to start your kind of protection journey. So let's talk about Veeam's consumption models today and where we're at. So obviously today we're talking about Veeam Data Cloud from Microsoft 365. But we still offer that traditional on-premise backup software in the form of Veeam Backup for Microsoft 365. That's not going anywhere. And then we still have our managed service provider offering where you could use a Veeam Cloud and Service provider as part of that program to have someone else kind of manage those backups for you. So we talked a little bit about that easy, that modern and intuitive strategy that we have for Veeam Data Cloud, but really we want to talk about how Veeam is not only the trusted and industry-leading technology provider in this space, but we're protecting over 23 million users today in Office 365. And with this platform, everything is included. So that's the infrastructure, the networking, a ton of different components that we're going to highlight here for you to get a little bit more precise on what we offer and what you will be responsible for as kind of a consumer in the space. So yes, as part of this offering, we're going to handle the servers, we're going to handle that networking, we're going to handle all of the proxies involved with connecting and managing that data. We're doing all of the maintenance, but we're taking care of all of those patches, not only operating system patches, but we're taking care of the software patching. When new issues come up, we're able to hyper accelerate and patch those relatively quickly and add new features into the software at a pace that Veeam hasn't traditionally seen before. So these are things that Veeam is going to handle for you here on the left-hand side. And you're just responsible for things such as making sure that your backup jobs are created and protecting your entire kind of tenant. Maybe you're just protecting certain groups of data out of that tenant. So that's kind of your responsibility. Also performing those restores. So if you need those granular restores, those file restores, a disaster happens and you need that type of recovery. That type of recovery is going to be something you're able to do. And then we have kind of this advanced search feature where you're able to carve out criteria, whether that's the subject of an email, the body of the email. Maybe you're looking for specific zip files or ISOs in other parts of the applications. You're able to do that through this search feature, whether we use the basic search to do keywords, or that more advanced search to kind of do that metadata search. So there's some additional things here, some additional controls. We'll take a closer look in the actual technical demo to give you a walkthrough of what types of controls you'll be able to use as that kind of user on the platform. So Gene, can you tell us a little bit more about what we're offering today as far as a service?
Yeah, so today we have two types of protection actually. So it's not traditional backup. Our traditional backup relied on, or still does rely on, the Microsoft Graph API, which if you've got a really busy tenant and you are backing it up from time to time, you could see throttling from Microsoft. So there are some limitations on availability, speed, and access to that data. But what's really interesting is as of August of 2024, after Microsoft launched their backup storage APIs, we followed suit very quickly along with them. And we are now offering also a disaster recovery type of capability through that Microsoft Backup Storage API. What this does is it provides lightning fast backups and recovery for Exchange, SharePoint, and OneDrive at scale. So, and we refer to it as in a disaster recovery type of instance because that's kind of my background, is because when you are in a mass or catastrophic data loss type of event, you start talking about recovery time objectives, like how soon can my data be restored? How soon can my business be back up and running? Or how soon can we access this important data that we rely on? And in addition to that, we're also talking about recover point objectives. So how much data am I going to lose in this type of event? Am I going to have to restore everything from 24 hours ago? Or can I get closer to the moment of when that happened? The answer is, with this API and this capability, you're looking at recover point objectives of about 10 minutes for Exchange, SharePoint, and OneDrive. And recovery times, well, those are going to vary depending on how much data you've got, but on average about between 1 and 9 terabytes per hour. So it's really effective in that aspect. And it also, in addition to your traditional backups that we'll show you in the demo with the Graph API, this is creating a second copy of your data that's separate from your backup data. So you're effectively achieving that 3-2-1 best practice.
So when you're talking about RTOs and RPOs, in sort of maybe a disaster, kind of akin to all of this, is there a particular segment of data that maybe benefits most from this? So when I think of what we're protecting today with these services, is there a particular use case that comes to mind that might take advantage of this more so than any of the other types of data?
I think SharePoint is very important because a lot of data is stored in SharePoint. We have customers that are using it both internally and as external sites that they use to collaborate with other entities, their customers, their partners. So that that goes down, if that's not available, then it's only a matter of time before people will start looking in other areas of solving a problem or meeting a need. So it's really important to have that data up immediately. Exchange also important for communication, collaboration, and then OneDrive for access to documents that the whole organization relies on every day.
Yeah, and this is also what I've seen in the opportunities and places that I'm also working at, where we're talking about large data sets. So the companies, the older that they are, all of that, maybe they're not using, delete rules. So maybe all of their mail is in archive mail. So those mailboxes can get really massive. And if you're talking 500, 1,000, 10,000 mailboxes with archive mailboxes, that's a huge data set. And that's on top of maybe having a couple of 20 terabyte SharePoint sites, maybe using a single OneDrive for a ton of file sharing. There's a lot of initiatives nowadays with companies to move all of their on-prem data into the cloud, and it's starting to land in these services that we're talking about protecting today. So having the capability to restore each service 1 to 3 terabytes an hour per service is really amazing. To get those RTOs where we want to see them, instead of using that traditional Graph API throttling that anybody is going to hit.
Yeah, I think that's a key word too, is throttle, right? There's no throttle associated with this API. So you can expect it to run at a speed and stay at that speed until it's done.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a look at some of the other capabilities that we're bringing into the platform. So when we talk about the security of the platform, Veeam has been working really hard to develop a lot of security controls, and around those security controls, we're now able to get different certifications. So there's a Veeam Trust Center out there that will list kind of all of our controls and security certifications out there. The biggest one, in my opinion, that I've seen the most use out of is going to be our SOC 2 report. So that goes over the different audit that came through. It was a kind of like a year-long process to get that in place. So not only what we have in place today, but there's a roadmap that we're taking to get to FedRAMP certification. So as consumers, if you guys have ever dealt with government, you know how hard it is to kind of get into that space with those certifications and those security controls in place. But that's something that Veeam is kind of dedicated to in order to see ourselves in that space as well. So alongside of that security thought, we've implemented controls that are allowing you to kind of restrict via public IP address ranges. We're using multi-factor authentication. We have role-based access controls in place. We also have security group object protection, things like user auditing around controls, but also around restore activities, that you're able to kind of export this log out if you had to track anybody down for any reason. Hopefully nobody ever does, but it is there for that specific reason. And then also our pricing model. It's very predictable and it's unlimited storage. So there's no tiering based on how much data growth that you might have this year. So maybe you come into the platform with X, next year when you might have 50% growth, 100% growth, we're not going to charge you extra money just because you've grown. We expect that on the platform. So you just get one single price, and that price is per user. So that way you don't have any sort of like bill shock coming up for that.
Yeah, if I can share a little story about or experience about that unlimited storage and where it really comes in handy. So we all know Microsoft 365 licensing is not cheap, especially if you're at E5 and have everything turned on, right? We have encountered several customers who are encountering issues with cost, and then their storage consumption is just growing exponentially, and they're trying to find a way to control it. So the first thing naturally that they're going to do is go and set limits on mailboxes, for example, or quotas, right? So in order to keep that size down, one of the great things about us having the unlimited storage is that before you go and purge a whole bunch of data, you can always back it up, set it for your retention period that's required, and then proceed to turn those settings, those controls on, because you know for sure that once you turn those on and things get deleted, someone could have a mailbox folder with emails that they have to refer to that may be 6-7 years old. If those get purged, they're going to come back and ask for it. So it's going to be a good thing to back all that up before you turn those controls on, so that they can be easily recovered. And we also can offer that through self-service. So if a user finds that they're missing something, they can easily get into here as part of that huge simplicity model that we've got to be able to go and find what they're looking for and restore it for themselves.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about kind of our premium model, what we're looking at as far as technology under our hood here. Inside of Veeam Data Cloud, we obviously have a very top level of premium. Premium is going to include two different products. So we have our traditional Flex product. This is kind of the underpinning of VB365 traditionally for that kind of that 8-year history that we have ongoing with that product. And then we have the Express product. So two different backup chains to kind of satisfy Veeam's traditional stance of 3-2-1, keeping those entirely separate from your tenant in their own spaces so that there's no crisscross, there's no worrying about if something goes down, where's that data? You can still satisfy those traditional backup methods and that mantra that we've always kind of pushed out. But with Express, that's our traditional Microsoft, not traditional, that's our Microsoft Backup Storage API. So that's the lightning fast speeds that we were just talking about, the 1 to 3 terabytes per hour backup and restore speeds. And then we have that traditional flex, which is how you're going to get that granularity out of the software. You're going to be able to go down to that mail. You're going to be able to restore it to the original location, a new location, download it as an object to your computer. These are types of things that we offer. And so this is what we're going to dive a little bit more into as we kind of look into the actual software. Anything else you want to add there, Gene, before we head into the demo?
No, I'm actually excited to just show it to him. I think
Sweet.
the biggest benefit of all of this is you see two things, right? You have two APIs, two types of backup, and then we combine them with Premium. The main reason is that it's single pane of glass, that very simple access to your data when you need it most.
Yep. All right, well, let's give the people what they kind of came for. Let's go ahead and head into the demo environment and kind of take them through a journey of the platform.
All right. Here we go. Kind of thumbs up when you see my screen.
Yep, it's there.
Okay, cool. All right, everybody. So this is welcome to the Veeam Data Cloud for M365 dashboard. Before we jump into this, just want to cover real quick what onboarding looks like, because if you're used to on-premises and managing your own infrastructure for backups, this is truly a backup as a service or a software as a service, if you will. There is no infrastructure setup required on your behalf. That's all currently already running in the Veeam Data Cloud, which is hosted in Azure. And onboarding is as simple as soon as you decide to join the Veeam family for your M365 backups within the Veeam Data Cloud, you'll receive a welcome email, and then a customer success manager who does our white glove onboarding will reach out to you and schedule some time that matches your schedule to the actual onboarding. The onboarding meeting is about an hour long. There is some prep work that they work with you on gathering. It doesn't take very long. It's pretty simple to get that. And then they proceed to work with you on that onboarding call to first establish your tenant within Veeam Data Cloud, which takes about 5 to 10 minutes. And then once that's completed, they go through with you and they start configuring backup policies. So we'll get your backup started immediately. Any role-based access controls for self-service, if you want to delegate access to a help desk to be able to do restores, we can certainly dive into that if that's of interest. But the whole experience is all included, plus knowledge transfer. So it's designed to get you up and running and your data protected as soon as possible, if you will. Once those backup policies are established and your first backup's complete, you'll start seeing the data on the dashboard that you see on my screen here. And this is just going to give you an overview of your whole backup estate, including a couple of M365 pieces. So backup status will track your data growth over time in terms of backups. A lot of our customers like to see that because if they're looking at something that's more on a per gigabyte model versus an unlimited per user model like we are, they could see how their data grows over time and the cost avoidance associated with that. Backup users gives you a view into accounts that are protected out of total accounts, how many may be missing from backup policies. There's a really simple way to address that, which I'll show you to address that issue that I'll show you in the dashboard. So it kind of brings a set it and forget it kind of feel to the backup solution. Retention just tells you this is my target, 7 years. I've currently got 7 days. I just rebuilt this on the latest and greatest. So that's going to build up over time. It'll hit 100% when it reaches my full 7 years. M365 license activity just tells me how many of my actual M365 licenses and users are actually active. It's a good way to identify any kind of potential users who are no longer with the organization that have already been backed up, where you can pull those licensing back and potentially reallocate them where needed. So we do license per user, and what that license includes for every user you license is mailbox protection, OneDrive protection, and then protection of any SharePoint and Teams that they have access to. So if you have 50 users, for example, in your environment, and you protect all 50, you can protect everything they access with that single license. Where we don't require licenses are for shared mailboxes. So those are included as part of it. So I know a lot of our customers today used to have a process where if someone leaves, they turn their mailbox into a shared mailbox so it can be accessed. Those can actually still be protected. And then storage usage over time. This is live usage of your Microsoft 365 data. These are my top 5 users. I like to point this out with customers because these are my top 5 users of all time that I log in every day and I see. And then I log in tomorrow and there's a whole different set of 5 users with a lot more data than these 5. I'm going to start, questioning them, go to security and say, hey, can you find out what happened in the last 24 hours? Why these people have so much data? Is it something malicious going on? So a little bit of visibility and cause for proactivity to make sure everything's okay. Below that, we have restore tiles, which will take you directly into the backup data. Those also map to the backups on the left, which we'll cover here shortly. Recent user activities. So John mentioned that we do audit all user activity, and this is user activity related to accessing any of that data that's been backed up. So as soon as I click on a tile here to restore, it'll create a restore session. If I view an email body, it'll audit that. In fact, there are a lot of actions that we track as it relates to accessing that data, restoring it, downloading it, even managing your subscription. We're here to see how simple we can back data up and restore it. So first thing you do after that onboarding when we get into the onboarding, is we create backup policies. So with that premium model that John showed on that last slide, you get an express policy that you can create. This is that disaster recovery policy through the Microsoft Backup Storage API, and then a Flex policy, which is your traditional backup policy that meets all your retention, your compliance, and all that, plus your day-to-day restoration needs. And that's here. So what we'll do first is we will set up we'll go through what it looks like to set up a disaster recovery policy. With that, we have 3 options. Super easy to set up. We just select, for example, if I want to create one for Outlook, which I already have, you'll see that I've already selected 30 users to protect with this policy. And then there's no next screen after this. It's just a save button. So once we save that, it gets created as an express policy that you see here. But then one thing to note is it's always active. And what that means is, based on the nature of how that API is built, it's going to look every 10 minutes to see if there's any change in your data for OneDrive, SharePoint, and Exchange. So as it sees that data has been deleted or data has been updated or new data has arrived, it adds a point in time every 10 minutes. And this is just ongoing. It's kind of asynchronous, if you will, as the data is happening. So that's always on. It's always there, available for you to break glass in case of emergency. And I need to restore a lot of data. The other policy, which is your day-to-day backup to meet all your needs, is a Flex policy. And this one has a few more options. So we'll just call this test webinar policy. Go next. Different options, so I can protect the entire organization. But if you want to be more detailed about it, what you can do is you can go by user. So you might have a policy for, like, say, your executive team. You can choose just that team here, by user or by group. Groups are going to be more dynamic than users. So as people get added to groups and removed to groups, same thing happens with a backup policy for those specific users. But if you wanted a fully automated experience, this partial organization button down here opens up these checkboxes. So if this was a mailbox policy, I'm just going to grab the mailbox items, hit OK, and then we'll proceed forward, create the policy. And what that means is any mailbox that gets created is going to get added to this policy, and any mailbox that is removed gets removed from the policy. One huge thing to note about removing from policies is if you remove a user or they leave the organization and you're no longer backing up that account, their data stays in the retention repository for that full period of time that you set. We don't go in and delete the data just because you remove the user. No additional licensing is required to maintain that as well. Same thing for OneDrive's sites and teams. As they're created, you may see lots of sites get created on a daily basis for different uses. Those will get recognized in our next poll for objects, which I think is hourly. Is that correct, John? And as you retire sites, they'll also get pulled out of the policies. but the data never leaves your repository until it actually expires. So choose mailboxes for this. If we need to exclude anything, then we can do the same thing on a more granular basis. So if I want to grab all the all the mailboxes, but I have some that I don't want to get, I can easily select the users or groups for that. Same thing with SharePoint sites and teams. Once we've made our selections, we just start the policy and hit create. I'll just go through the creation process. I won't actually run it because I'm backing everything up in my tenant already. So that's going to take a few seconds to create, and then it appears in the list of all the policies. So there's that test webinar policy that's stopped. Anytime you're in this backup policies window, you can go and click on any of these hyperlinked policies. These are our Flex policies, and you'll see all the history of when the jobs ran, the items they processed, the timestamps when they started and ended, as well as access directly into the logs. Let's see if I have anything with warnings. Might be SharePoint. Yeah, SharePoint's definitely got warnings. So I wanted to show the warnings because we do have filtering. So if you have hundreds or thousands of jobs that have run in the past, and you want to just jump to see, what the warnings are or which ones ended in a warning or failed, you could quickly jump to those through the filtering. And then also within the logs themselves, you can search for specific criteria, keywords, or you can filter just to see what you want to see. Export to CSV if you want to process it that way. Local time, because we use UTC by default. Local time is super helpful for me because I don't math very well when it comes to that. All right, so once our policies are created, now we are in a state where we can effectively start reporting on everything that takes place. We do have these reports that you can automate or produce ad hoc. So if someone wants to, maybe your security team just wants a daily email with a report of who's doing any restore activity, you can quickly set one up or add a report down here, schedule it to run as frequently as you need, send it to a mailbox. The search, so we have two types of search: general search, which will allow me to search Outlook and SharePoint for now. OneDrive and Teams are coming soon. This is actually newer than our advanced search, so it's still being worked out. Put a search criteria in here. It'll return the first 500 messages. Choose what you need. Even pick a point in time to search through. Advanced search will go through more of the metadata search, more pinpointed search that John mentioned. Lots of metadata here. Primary criteria followed by secondary criteria. So there's a lot of metadata you can search against. Every search that you add and perform gets saved, timestamped. You can view the results as many times as you need. Once you do find the results you're looking for, you can quickly restore the items with a multitude of options, right? Original location, other user's mailbox, or download. It's very simple there. But if you do need to go and browse backups to restore, so you get a help desk gets a ticket and they need to restore a folder in someone's mailbox, they just jump right into here. So me just clicking on that created that audit event that says I created a restore session, and then it's going to follow me as I work through here and restore data or view data. So if I need to restore data from my mailbox, for example, just click on that. It's going to open the tree. It looks exactly like it does in Outlook. So I can quickly find what I'm looking for. From here, I can restore the mailbox. If I click into a folder, I can restore the folder, and then you'll see everything loads here. I can make my selections for individual items to restore. I can even preview any of the email that I need to restore. Again, this is a role that you can turn on or off depending on who you're giving access to be able to do this. Maybe you don't want the help desk previewing something in your CTO's mailbox, for example, then you can disable that on the help desk and reserve that for maybe a higher level service desk or your backup admins. If it's what I need, then I can restore it, hit the restore selected item, same thing, same options as the advanced search. But on a mailbox and folder level, we can do other things like, actually, even with the files, we can send it to another user's mailbox, put it in a specific folder within their mailbox. One thing interesting with this is, like, for example, if a user leaves and a manager wants access to their mailbox, You won't have to give them access to their actual mailbox unless you have special requirements for that, like maybe they want to turn on their out of office or something like that. But you can redirect, or not redirect, restore their entire mailbox to someone else's mailbox and put it in a specific folder. When it gets restored, it'll build the whole tree out in that folder for it to be accessed. Or you can download it as a PST. Real simple to do restores there. Very quick access into that. I'm not going to cover each one of these, but I will talk about the differences. So with OneDrive, when we're talking about documents that we're restoring, we do track the versions for every document. So in the last 24 hours, if there have been 12 revisions of the same document, you can actually go in and restore a specific version of that file. Same thing with SharePoint. And you can also restore OneDrive to another user's OneDrive, SharePoint to an alias site. So if you have a subsite you want to move to a top level site, you can do stuff like that, or move it into another site if you wanted to. Teams, we back up the teams, the channels, the posts. Posts are not by default turned on because there is an additional consumption charge for the API usage through Microsoft. But we grab everything else about the teams, the structure, the tabs, the documents, the permissions, the ownership. All that gets restored upon a Teams restore. Now, bulk restore. Bulk restore leverages that Microsoft Backup Storage API. This is that disaster recovery restore. So before I jump into that, I'm going to go back here real quick. There's another way. So you don't always have to use the disaster recovery, but if I know that Diego, Megan, and Mia all needed their mailboxes restored, and they have a lot of mail, typically a full mailbox restore could take some time. But one of the things that we've got built in at this level is if you're doing a mass mailbox restore and it's not the entire estate, you could start with, hey, across the board for all these users, restore the first 3 days, get them back into their data, their most recent items so they can continue working. And then as soon as that's all done, it's basically more priority for the first 3 days, and then just start trickling in the rest of it over time. It does work really fast. If you're sitting in the mailbox and restores after the first 3 days have completed, or before the first 3 days have completed, everything else will start trickling in live. They'll start seeing it populate. So pretty cool. It does work pretty fast, but again, this API is throttled. So if you're using it for a lot more users than 3 or maybe 10, you could potentially run into some throttling incidents with Microsoft, which will slow it down. And that's where the bulk restore comes in handy. So bulk restore, and I don't know if anyone else has this specific bulk restore capability, but we built it in a way where we know we're down, we know we have a lot of data missing, we know we need it back immediately. So what makes it simple is I go in and say I choose all my users. I know mailboxes and OneDrives are affected, so we'll grab everything. And then I have SharePoint sites that I need to restore. This takes a minute to load. Need some Jeopardy music. So we'll grab a few of these sites. I'm going to add one more. Okay, there's what I need. So I've got 4 sites selected, 10 users selected. I want to choose the latest available restore point. I'm going to hit next here, and what this is going to do is it's going to go and query all those restore points across all these objects and tell me exactly when it's going to, or where it's going to restore from. Some of them are going to say not found because they're really, I don't know if I'm protecting Grady that way, or the sandbox admin doesn't have a OneDrive point that's set up because OneDrive was never configured, but everything else tells me the point in time it's going to grab. If it's not what I'm looking for, I can go back, pick a different time, and do this again. But if this is everything I want, I just hit confirm, and it immediately starts repopulating all that data. And it's one restore job for mass data restore, as opposed to having to go and do each one individually. Last thing I'll cover before I hand it back over, well, we do have some time, so is role-based, some of the settings. So role-based access controls are really huge. First, I want to talk about access into the Veeam Data Cloud interface. So this doesn't require you to be setting up different accounts specific to the solution. This is all going to rely on your Entra ID accounts. So if you have an NM365 users, obviously for self-service. So when we onboard, we're going to use you're going to have a global admin present to create that app registration for the tenant. Once that's done, whoever we've identified as the backup admin, in this instance, it's going to be me, has access into here. This is using my M365 or Entra ID account to give me access to it. We just control access once it links to your tenant, and we basically just control the look and feel, the access into the different functionality via our role-based access controls. So administrators are going to get everything. Here I have two different help desks, right? So I have a help desk here that's allowed to help every user but my executive team. They're going to be able to browse and restore, Outlook, SharePoint, Teams, and OneDrive for any user, except, and then I made an exception here at the bottom. I put my executive group in there, and then I have an executive help desk who is going to be able to browse and restore data only for those groups that I select. So there's my executive team in there. So if John, for example, is on the executive help desk team, he's only going to see the data for the executive team. He's not going to see everybody else's. And if I'm on the help desk and I log in, I'm only going to see everybody except for the executive team. So there's a lot of control here in terms of how you can do this. One other way I did this was I was working with a state who had centralized IT with a central tenant manager, or they managed it, the M365 through a central tenant or central IT, and each state department needed access in to be able to restore their own data. So in this example, it's the research and development department. Whoever is part of this group is going to be able to log in and browse and restore SharePoint, Teams, OneDrive, and Outlook for the research and development team only. And that's, again, selected through these groups and sites that I have indicated here. And then on the self-service side, so we don't have to create this self-service role. That's actually under our access and system. We just flip this self-service on, and then as soon as the first end user logs in, that role gets created. And all they're going to see is that OneDrive and that Outlook restore tile and only see their data. What's nice about this is your users will not be able to create some kind of throttling incident or basically degrade performance if they all try to go and restore their entire mailboxes. It's limited to only single item downloads or restores like Outlook and Exchange messages and documents. That's this right here. A lot of our customers are telling us it's an instant ROI for their teams, for their help desk. All those tickets that come in on a daily basis have tremendously cut down, and users are able to go and help themselves where they need it without getting into the danger zone. John, anything else that I should really point out here that you would see is a huge differentiator?
Yeah, you've hit a lot of the great points, and a lot of people that we've talked to regarding self-service, they don't really want to give up the control of self-service, but because of how easy it is to save and turn on these things, it's definitely worth testing out for each individual kind of tenant, each company's use case, because at the end of the day, these are things that save within seconds, maybe a minute. It's not taking an entire half hour, an hour a day to save and change. So if nothing else, maybe it's a self-restore Friday. You do it at lunchtime, so everyone is busy restoring while you yourself are heading out to lunch and getting those shorter lunch lines. It's something that may not work for everybody. It definitely won't work for everybody, right? But the idea is to make yourselves more efficient, to get more time back in your day, which is what the platform is kind of designed for you. So you're not having to manage the entire infrastructure on top of all the backup infrastructure and on top of the backup jobs, on top of the restores and things like that. So we're trying to reduce that total footprint of each individual admin and person that has to come into the platform.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to head into the Q&A panel or you can take the screen share back.
Yeah. Let me share out. This guy here. So we've got some kind of ending slides that you guys can get some additional information, maybe some click-throughs. Very soon, we're going to have a hands-on lab that you're going to be able to kind of get to play with without doing a lot of over-the-shoulder kind of watching or those type of click-throughs. So that should be available by the end of the week on our hands-on lab page. We can kind of get that sent out. But kind of take a look at these. If you guys would like a customized demo, something that you do want more information on, maybe something that you didn't see for your specific use case, maybe you have some strict compliance things that you want to talk about, retention goals, definitely reach out. You'll get to talk to one of us kind of on a more personal level, and we'll be able to kind of custom that content specifically for your use case. But we also kind of wanted to leave it off here with kind of Veeam's total vision that we talked about initially, where this is where we're headed as a company, where we're going to see a large investment. My favorite word, modularize kind of the entire Veeam suite of products and put those up here. So definitely keep your eye out in the space as we kind of reveal some new things this year that are going to be really cool. And so from here, we'll kind of carve out some time to go through some different questions that are coming up. Anything in chat that's kind of top of mind that you guys want to talk about while we have a couple minutes left, feel free to toss out there and we'll try to address them live as we go.
Wow, lots of questions. Let's see, I'm going to pick one here. So does anyone with a backup admin role in M365 or in VDC M365 have access to administer RBAC? So the answer to that is yes. I did answer back to the specific question that the attendee asked. But one of the things you can also do with that is reserve the backup admin role for the backup admins, and if you need someone else in there to sort of admin things, but not touch any of the important stuff, you can delegate that access through the different roles that you want to create. What I showed today is what we have currently. There are some changes that are coming as well. So there'll be a lot more controls into other things like retention management and passphrase management as well for encryption. So things like that.
So here's a good question about kind of the express capabilities of that bulk restore tool that you were just showing off. In the case that the bulk restore is needed specifically for Exchange, let's say they have a bunch of data, a bunch of corrupted data. What happens if they bulk restore, 100 mailboxes back to a point in time? Is that going to merge everything together? Are they going to see duplicates? What does that look like?
Sorry, repeat the question. I was answering another question. My bad.
No, that's okay. So the bulk restore tool, when we're doing Exchange specifically, when we load it up with those objects to restore, is it going to put the mailbox back into the state of the restore point that they select, or is it going to kind of merge everything together? Are they going to see duplicates of data from that restore point?
That's a great question, and it depends on what you've done with that mailbox so far. So in my own testing, some of the things that I've seen where merges take place or you see some duplicate items is, and I did this to myself because I demo the thing so much, is if I go to my Flex backups and I restore a bunch of mail into my inbox, for example, that creates a new restore point even if it already had one, because these are net new objects that are being seen by the API. So when you go to do that one, if that mailbox is not cleaned out first, it could potentially add duplicates in there and merge the mailbox. Typically, when you're looking at a mass mailbox recovery like that, there's a reason why. It's either you're missing a ton of mail, it's either encrypted or corrupt or something. In the event that it's encrypted or corrupt, what I would do first is make sure I clean everything out, empty the recycle bin, deleted items, and then proceed to that point in time to do the restore prior to when that encryption or corruption took place. Then it'll put everything back into the state it was prior to that happening. In the event where you lose a lot of mail and you're not able to determine, so for like those 10 users I did in the demo, if they all reported that they're missing a lot of mail and we don't have time to figure out what's missing, find out when it went missing, and we pick a point in time, it will fill in all the gaps basically of what's missing there. So if the data still exists and it wasn't replaced by something else, it'll see it as good data, and we'll just fill in all the gaps of all the missing information.
Yeah. We've got another question about kind of licensing. So what exactly is displayed in the demo to get an appropriate quote? So what would our prospective audience need to kind of get an idea of their cost in Veeam Data Cloud for Microsoft 365 today?
Okay, so everything you saw today that I showed is what comes with the premium license. That's going to give you the restore tiles for Outlook, OneDrive, SharePoint, and Teams. The bulk restore is an add-on through what we call Express. That can be considered separate, but when you go with premium, that's going to give you everything. There's premium, and I don't know if you want to bring that slide back up, John. I think it was slide 10. So we can talk about that a little bit because it can get a little confusing, but I really want to make sure that we make that clear here. Oh, go back down one.
There we go.
There we go. All right, so what you see on the screen on the left side is Express. So that's the Microsoft Backup Storage API. That's your disaster recovery policies and capabilities. On the right side is Flex, what we call Flex, and that is the Microsoft Graph API-based backups and restore. All the granularity, like individual objects, search, all those granular type of capabilities come from Flex. So if that is your main use case, you need your day-to-day backups, and to be able to do those role-based access control type granular restores, the advanced search and restore, any of the granular stuff, and also retain your data for longer than a year, that's Flex. Express is what you asked for if you just want the disaster recovery portion. However, with Express, what you lose that you're not getting with Flex is there's a 1-year retention limit on Express, and there's no granularity. So you can't go into a mailbox with the Express or the disaster recovery copy and get just 1 or 2 items at that level. Premium is when you combine both. So you're getting the best of both worlds. You're getting your day-to-day with Flex. You're meeting all your compliance and retention needs. You're getting the granularity, just the full. It's very flexible. No pun there. But on top of that, the Express is going to give you that bulk resource. So that last screen that I showed you, where I selected all the users and all the SharePoint sites, and it lined up all the points in time, and then I was able to restore. That's going to be just an Express specific feature. I hope that made sense, and I didn't confuse you all any more than I needed to. So easy way to think about it is Flex backup, Express disaster recovery, premium gives you both.
What about the actual licensing? Do they have to license for things like shared room resource equipment mailboxes, or what do they have to license in the actual Veeam Data Cloud?
Just your actively licensed Microsoft 365 users. Shared mailboxes are all included. Which can sound a little confusing. When I say included, it's you can back those up without licensing them. Just your active, I guess your humans. All right, we have some time for a few more. Got one for you, John. Can one Entra ID environment have different license models?
Yes. So typically, an organization may not need to protect their entire user count with premium. So what we'll see somewhere between maybe 10 and 20%, maybe 25% of your user base on premium, and then the rest on Flex, because really you want that granularity and knowing that it meets all of your retention goals, your compliance by having all of those Flex backups, giving you the ability, the power of that Express part of that premium offering to give you the bulk restore of those very important objects. Maybe it's your board, your C-suite, maybe it's legal and compliance security teams. Maybe it is IT. Maybe you license your IT team with premium. So you can mix and match that licensing model. You don't have to do all or one. And that's something that, we can customize and work with you on. So definitely, you don't have to carve it out and think about it yourself. Give us a chance to kind of meet with you, talk it out, and see if that kind of 80-20 works for you. Maybe it is 100%.
Here's a good one. What does this offer over Azure Backup and Recovery Services? So I'm going to rephrase that because when we're talking about Azure Backup and Recovery, that could be a separate product for Azure VMs and things like that. But Microsoft does offer this as a first party, and I think they're calling it Microsoft Backup for M365. Their cost model is different. Through Veeam, you're going to get that unlimited storage versus a per gigabyte cost per month. So that's going to be a huge savings, especially if you've got a lot of data. And then also, that's only going to give you that capability to be able to do the bulk restores, or the larger restores from that point in time. If you do need to go with, if you do need a day-to-day backup policy that runs and is retained for longer than 1 year, plus your operational type recoveries on a daily basis, that's going to be our Flex. When you go through Veeam for get both through premium, you're going to get the benefit of having that single pane of glass for both scenarios and capabilities.
Yep. And then just the last thing to tie off there with the Azure Backup and Recovery Services, a follow-up was asking about Microsoft 365 Backup. So as a final sign-off, that's what our Express offering is. That's the backbone of that Express offering is Microsoft 365 Backup Storage API. So that's one of the things that we were a launch partner of last summer. And why it's so fast is because it comes from that Microsoft 365 Backup Storage API. But we are at time, so we'll kind of try to answer questions through email after this. There's some resources out there that you guys signed up for that you should have in your email. Use those, reach out, let's connect, and kind of continue the conversations.